Hello, and welcome to the episode of Philosophical Bones. I'm Nick.
I'm Keith.
And how's it going?
Not too bad, man.
Yeah, just
another day in paradise.
We're sweating it out right now.
Yeah, the studio's hot.
we
we had to turn off all the air so you guys don't hear.
Yeah. Which you may not care about, but we really care about. At least me. So anyway, today is question 24.
That's crazy.
And we say that every single time.
Still.
Or at least you do.
Yeah.
So the question today is, are emotions necessary? Take it away, Keith.
Hey, well, you know me. It's, I think emotions are necessary because it keeps us in check.
Well, I want to put it right off the bat. We can't turn them off.
No, well, there's people that don't even have them.
True.
There's what's called a sociopath.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a completely different story.
Did you ever tell me that you were?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. See, like I either have them 1,000% or zero. Like that's the way my brain works. It's like I either feel something so much that it bubbles over and it controls everything that I do, or I'm robot.
You want to get in this right off bat? Actually, is I know. Well, one thing is like our emotions necessary, and actually, I think you bring up a good point, which is maybe really in everybody there's certain emotions that just certain people don't feel,
right,
or don't have.
Right.
Like
well, empathy in particular.
Empathy is a big one.
Yeah. Empathy is it's an emotion.
Well, for me, I wonder about I mean, for me, the one that pops up the most is the emotion of love.
Oh, dude, that's bane of my existence.
I know.
Man.
Well, sometimes I wonder. I honestly sometimes wonder to myself if I am capable of that, or if I do love at all, or if I ever have been in love, or anything like that, or even just like having love for like my family. I'm like, I really have a hard time even saying like, oh yeah, I love you. Like, I think the only one of my family I think I really said that to before is like my grandmother.
Yeah. Well, I had a particular issue with that. Like after my mom passed away, my dad was very overly emotional. And it's all the time is like crying and like, I love you, Keith. And like the only way I was able to deal with it is literally a mental switch in my brain. Yeah. Just it's off.
Well, one thing,
it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I wanted to say is like, it's like when you first fall in love with someone and you end up eventually asking a friend or a family member or like, well, what does it feel like when you're in love? And it's like, oh, well, you just know.
I've never been there, to be perfectly honest.
And I almost feel like maybe it's only really been like one time I've I've been in love with someone.
I think I've been in lust.
Yeah, I think that actually I would probably say the same thing. Yeah. I really, it's tough to. I mean, that's what poets been doing for fucking millennia. Right. Is trying to describe what love is.
Yeah, well, in this day and
what it feels like.
In this day and age, it's a completely different thing. You know, like it's all internet dating and never really meeting anybody.
Well, and like also, I think the word maybe has gotten kind of contrived in a way.
Well, it's watered down.
That's probably what I was looking for, is actually watered down, because it's like you just say it now. It's like, oh, I love you, bro. Oh, I love you too, man. It's like it doesn't really mean anything anymore.
Yeah. You know, like you think about like Romeo and Juliet or Bonnie and Clyde, or like those are two kind of like things I think of like when those two people were inseparable. Yeah. Like Romeo and Juliet's a story.
Oh yeah.
But you know, it's human beings don't do that anymore. I really don't think.
Like, don't do what?
Just really genuinely love each other. Like,
no, I don't believe that.
I'm talking about men and women.
No, I think it's just something maybe we don't see.
That's my sociopathy right there.
I think it's that's really what it is. I think is me and you just don't really see it in our everyday lives.
Right. You know, and like
so we can't really connect that. I mean, I will say like my parents were married for I think 27 years. And my dad, and when they stopped being together is when my dad died. But yeah, they were married at that point for like 27 years. Well, you know, and they, I mean, I think they definitely love each other. I will say, like, definitely towards the last like few years, like I could see that my dad was pretty fucking annoyed and tired of my mom. But that's just like what I saw. Well, but at the same time, I remember my mom showing me a picture after he died. It's like, oh, this is the last picture he sent me, and it was him like sticking his tongue out.
Oh God,
and, you know, in a text message. So they still got along.
Yeah. Well, and you make a good point, you know, kind of like backtracking on what I said, like the love that I saw between my mom and my dad. It's like, 'cause my mom's been dead for 28 years, and my dad still talks about her every day.
Oh, yeah. That's love.
Yeah. They got married in 1 month of knowing each other.
You know, I just thought I had a crazy thing. I was like, maybe love is when you still think about someone after they're gone.
Yeah.
Or was when you still talk about them after they're gone, like out of your life.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't want to go that far in your life. Like, oh yeah, I knew that person for 40 years.
Right.
Oh, now I know I love them.
Well, see, like the big thing with me is when I try to avoid attachment, because when I get attached is when I don't think with my big head. And you know what I'm saying? You know, like I like even like the smallest things can happen, and I'll like analyze, and you know, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Like I've always been the one that like overdoes things or overthinks things. Did you ever meet Jackie, the girl I dated, Jackie?
Oh yeah, the heroin addict.
Yeah, that's right.
The former heroin addict.
Yeah, she's doing good now. She's doing good.
good.
You know, big ups, dude. She's doing good. But you know, like I was so blind to
that girl did a number on you, man.
Dude, tell me about it, man. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
But you know, it took me a long time to get over it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is like when I do, I can't say that I loved her because I genuinely don't know what love feels like.
I wonder about that with my my last girl I dated for like, this was probably like fucking at least 5-6 years ago. The last girl I was really serious about, I guess. And I mean, I think like a week or two after we start dating, it's like, oh yeah, I love you. And then I like think about it now, and I'm just like, I think I even actually said to her at one point, I sent her a letter after we broke up everything after a few months. I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if I was ever really in love with you. And she's like, well, thank you for saying, you know, at least telling me that now. It's like, I might have been, I might not. I mean, I'm that's why I'm more now. I look at it and I'm like, I'm more hesitant if I'm with someone.
Dude, yeah.
I'm more hesitant to say them. Like, I really want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to be concrete. Like, I know.
Well, like the last few women that I let into my life, they saw the turbulence of my brain, you know, and like so, like you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, like so, like getting back to the topic of emotion.
Yeah.
Like we're all wired so differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's no like. It's not brain surgery or rocket science or brain science or rocket surgery, but you know, like everybody's chemical balance is different.
Oh yeah.
You know, you think about like staying on the vein of what we're talking about, like people that are quick to anger, which is another emotion. You know, like anger is, like for me, dude, anger comes as a white hot flash.
Yeah,
but you know how chill I am.
Yeah,
dude, but like when anger hits, dude, it fucking hits.
Yeah, I mean me, I don't get angry very often, but when I do, I'm pissed.
Yeah. Like my buddy Kurt calls it gorilla mode, because like there was one time where I don't even remember this situation, but I was like maybe 16 or 17, and I had a pull out couch, you know, and like I was so mad I had took one hand and flipped the entire thing with one hand.
Damn.
Yeah, fucking full on pull out couch. I grabbed it and flipped it on his back, just like I just leaned down and grabbed it and stood up and tossed it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's crazy. Like
I've never like started throwing things. I might get like kind of pissed.
I break
maybe
stuff.
Kick something.
I break stuff.
I never really been much to break shit. I usually just kind of I kind of hold it in a little too much personally.
Yeah. And with me is like when I break something out of anger, like that second, I'm like, fuck, that was a mistake.
Well,
like
honestly,
I've thrown my phone at the wall.
I just realized though, to get back to our question though, of our emotions necessary? Is it necessary for us to kind of have that release of like anger, for instance?
Well, yeah, because you know, like you get into like psychology and stuff, and like if you bottle stuff up for years and years and years, like just even like little tiny things.
Oh yeah, especially with relationships.
Yeah, you're gonna either be toxic for somebody that you try to interact with, or you're gonna lash out. You know, like emotions are a very, very interesting thing. That's why there's a whole study of science on it. It's called psychology.
Yeah.
You know,
no,
I mean?
I'm just now learning this. No.
No. Yeah. But you know, I mean, there's like I do think it's necessary for humans to have emotions because it keeps us in check.
That's true.
It keeps us in check. You know, like say emotion of like I'm gonna go ahead, like sympathy is an emotion. You know, like you see somebody on the street that obviously has had a hard time and give them a bottle of water. That's sympathy. That's an emotion.
True.
You know, like it keeps us from flying off the handle all the time. Because if we were just robots, it would be all logic. But we're not robots. We're chemical.
Well, I wanted to kind of get
Go ahead.
I mean, this is probably a good time to bring up. We're going to talk about Vulcans.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, which I want to say, like, everyone knows what a Vulcan is. Spock. I think it's Spock. And I mean, the whole thing with them is their society is based on logic, and they keep their emotions hidden and like in check, because their emotions actually
so logical.
No, they're actually a very emotional like beings that they hide them because they're so intense for them.
It's like when Spock's dad goes crazy.
Yeah. Because they just can't control, like they just are overly emotional, and that's actually probably more on an extreme. And I mean, obviously, what's interesting about Vulcans is it's very much probably a commentary on ourselves.
Oh yeah. And
I'm just thinking about this now. I mean,
well, I personally could very much identify with a Vulcan.
Yeah.
Because like
people actually strive to be like Vulcans.
Yeah. When I do feel something, man, it's fucking full bore fucking flag, like full sail, you know what I mean?
But I think even with Vulcans, they would still feel empathy. Like they still felt emotion, just not anywhere. Like they didn't show it, and it wasn't to any extreme. But they could still sympathize with a culture or a person.
Right. And like in my mind, the two emotions that control me are love and anger, or that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
Like, for a lack of a better way to put the word love.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of what mine would be.
yeah. Because like we've talked about this more than once in the last couple episodes. I recently put myself through something really stupid with a girl that was really toxic for me, and I got 0 back, put out 1,000, and it made me feel like I was an inch tall, and it made me make stupid decisions, make me feel like shit. But so what goes through my mind is like, why you even feel like this? Just turn it off. And that's hard. But when I turn it off, it's off for a long time.
Yeah.
It's off for a long fucking time. And then that's where you get into like emotional walls. Like, have you ever yourself experienced like putting up an emotional wall?
Oh, I'm sure I've done it with in relationships before.
Yeah.
Where I'll probably just more like disconnect.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh yeah, okay. I'll just kind of I'll just like start paying lip service.
Yeah.
Which I don't like to do. I think it's more. I think that's more in times when I've been in relationships where I just get annoyed or bored with a person. That's pretty much happened with every single relationship I've been in. Is I either get bored or annoyed at some point.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying every relationship, but I'm saying most of them did end up that way, where I was like, oh well, this is not that exciting to me.
Yeah. Well, like it's kind of funny.
Which makes me sound a little bad.
Yeah.
But.
Well, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. Like every single relationship I've been in, and like it's kind of funny that we go to relationships.
We always do.
But every single relationship that I've been in for 15 years, literally the first thing that goes through my mind is like, okay, we're together now. Okay, this is awesome.
Yeah.
How is this going to end? How is this going to go?
I think everyone kind of does that.
Like, how is this going to go bad? Like, how long can I sustain this?
I would definitely
it goes bad?
I'd get interested in a woman, and not even be seeing them, but I would be interested in a woman. I would think like, oh well, yeah, I'm going to go on a date with them, and this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and then oh maybe this is our future, and like. I don't find myself doing that as much. I think it's everybody who does that.
Well, for me, it's how is the breakup going to happen? Yeah. That's what goes.
I don't ever
head.
Think about that.
That's totally first.
I just look at like I look at like the long game kind of thing. Like how is this going to turn out in the end?
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder about it, but
I've never personally been in a relationship longer than a year.
I'm like 4 months.
Oh, yeah, dude,
which makes doesn't sound good to me.
No, I feel.
But honestly, I just don't really date. I'm kind of picky and just.
I'm overly picky.
Yeah.
Because I've started stuff. This is kind of like off the topic, but
yeah.
There's been more than once where I've like started something with a girl that I wasn't 100% in my mind like physically attracted to.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, she wants to spend time with me, so let's just do this. And then it turns out to where I'm like, oh, why don't you touch? She's like, why don't you touch me? And blah blah blah. Yeah, that's happened to me more than once.
Which makes us. I mean, it almost feels like we're shit talking women right now a little bit. We're not.
Well,
we're not trying to.
Well, not even close because
we're mainly shit talking ourselves.
Yeah,
show.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of self-deprecating right now.
We are, aren't we?
But there's women that do the same thing. There's women that do the same. Like, because I'm saying in like my specific case, staying with like the emotions thing, like how do I phrase this? Like I spend a lot of my time by myself, just all the time by myself. So when a woman decides that they want to be in my world, like my emotions like flare up like fucking fireworks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think I've found myself lately, like I've had a much more active life now since I've gotten a new job and I have nights and weekends off.
There you go.
And I feel like I'm filling my time a lot more.
That's
I still have time, like especially at night when I get home from work. I'm like where I just like, okay, I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna eat. And I'm just gonna like relax, and watch like some YouTube, some Netflix. So I kind of like don't feel like lonely at all. And I'm talking to somebody.
There we go. Loneliness is another emotion.
But I found myself actually yesterday, and I didn't have anybody to like hang out. And like on like Fridays and Saturdays, I like to see like I like to hang out with somebody. Like, it's just kind of like I don't gotta work the next day. I'm like I want to do something. And then last night I kind of found myself for the first time in a while like I don't have anybody to hang out with. Like, oh, I could go out to the bar. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I don't have any money, and I'm gonna just go to the bar alone. And then like I was like, well, I can't get a hold of anybody. And then like last night, just like I think I kind of had to realize I'm like, Like, wow, I kind of had to face myself a little bit, my emotions, but at the same time, like, I still was trying to find an escape.
Right.
From those, because I didn't want to think about it. Like,
I love where you're going with this.
And what I did actually was, what I'm doing was I couldn't find anything to watch on YouTube, because you just get to a point where you just like start going through stuff, and then
watching the same video for the third time.
Yeah, and I didn't want to watch a movie. I just wasn't in the mood for anything. And then finally, I was just like, well, I haven't played any video games in a long time. I'm like, I had this game for a while that I bought, and I haven't really played it. So I put that on. It distracted me. I mean, it was kind of, it wasn't as fun as I was hoping it was gonna be, but it's still fun, and it kept me distracted. But it was more. I was kind of. I feel like I was escaping myself a little bit.
Trust me, I get that.
But I think where I want to go with this was one thing I realized at this moment is I used to not do that with myself. Like, I would study myself a lot and like, okay, I need to change this about myself. I need to change this. And not to say I don't still do that, but I feel more and more maybe I've started to get distracted from other things, from like watching and listening to things. Like, even when I'm in the shower now, like I have a podcast on, I have music on.
Any given time that I'm home, a podcast is going or something.
Yeah, and I don't study. I probably don't study myself. I'm not being as much as an introvert, I guess, as I used to be. And I remember that I talk about Spain a lot, with Camino de Santiago, by the way. Fucking check that
Shout
episode out. If you haven't heard it before. It's a Nerdy Bones episode.
About 2 months back.
Oh, it was more than that, man.
Is it really?
Yeah, it was probably 3. No, it was around April, I think.
Yeah.
No, May.
Definitely
check. 2 months. 2 months.
Yeah, definitely check that one out.
From the time we're recording this. But I remember when I was doing that trip, I was super introspective, and I would hardly put music on. Like, I didn't watch TV. I just hung out with people, and I'd have days where I'd start walking for hours on end, and I just think to myself, like, how am I going to improve myself?
Yeah.
I don't find myself doing that anymore.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you,
So
man.
maybe I just feel like I don't have the chance to get any perspective for myself anymore. And because it's feel like as the older I'm getting, like, the less I want to look at myself in the mirror, maybe.
Dude, I wish you guys could have seen my face right now.
Yeah, I'm getting really deep right now, man.
Yeah. Like, it's like
it's weird. I always say this show's like a fucking diary. And I asked us a question, and usually I try to be very straightforward, but it's kind of gone more to us.
Well, the way the show usually goes, you ask a question, and I rant for about 15 minutes.
Well, and then we go into just therapy for us. This is honestly our therapy show. This is our diary.
Yeah, like, so, like, getting on to what you're talking about, like introspection and stuff like that. Emotion plays a lot into that, because you're actually making decisions on the way that you feel about stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's if you had to explain emotion to a computer program, you wouldn't be able to do it. Like, there's no algorithm for emotion.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I think they say that would be the hardest thing to teach a robot, or really one of the factors in AI is emotion.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know. Do you need emotion in AI, or is it just a free thinking personality?
It'd be free thinking.
I think it's just free thinking.
Well, empathy would have to be calculated in.
Well, it was like you look at Data, actually.
There you go.
Now we're ringing up a sci-fi again.
There we
Star
go.
Trek.
There we go.
Because they explain the stuff really well with that not having emotions. Data is a perfect example, and it's like you look at Vulcans actually, and they're like, I envy you. Like, you have no emotion. You're like what we strive for, and then Data's like, well, well,
he strives for emotion.
Like, I wish I had what you had, and had the ability to have emotions. Like, that's what my goal is in life. And they're like, well, it's really curious. A Vulcan wanted to be an android, and an android wanted to be a human.
There you go. Well, like, you put something into my brain right now, kind of a little spark. Okay, so back to our original question: is emotion necessary? Yeah. Without emotion, we have serial killers.
Oh.
You get your dissociative disorder. You get your.
Well, it's funny. Yeah. I want to interject and say art, but it's like kind of bad saying like, oh, we have serial killers, but then we have no art. It's like, but as a way, like, serial killers, that's their art.
To a lot of them,
I hate saying that, but it's I'm sure a lot of them think that.
To a lot of them, it is, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to make this awesome point, and I'm drawing a blank at the exact word. So people like Ted Bundy or Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
They
I'm thinking Dahmer with his alters.
Exactly. But the big thing is, okay, I'm fucking drawing a blank. The word is when you don't care about anything. It's not apathy. It's narcissism is part of it. Mm-hmm. But like, if you have zero emotion.
Oh, you're nihilist?
Nihilist. So if you have zero,
or that means you believe in nothing.
Well, yeah. We'll see, like, the big thing in the Bible with Narcissus, or Narcissus was his name, and God told him to look at himself, and then he became obsessed with himself. Like, that's
kind of like Dorian Gray.
Dorian Gray was a painting, and he
was obsessed with himself, wasn't he?
Yeah. What to be a nihilist is to be obsessed with yourself, and guys can call me out on this, but what I'm getting at is when you have no emotion for anything else. Sociopath, that's the word. Like when you have no emotion for anything else, you don't care what happens. You don't care about the repercussions of the family of this person, what this person went through, what the victim went through. All you're looking for is your own pleasure.
Okay.
Like without emotions, we would all be that way.
Ooh.
Yeah, 100%. We would all be that way without emotions.
So you have to have like even with the example, like I say with Vulcans, just because I use them just because it's a big
Vulcans would be the textbook serial killers.
Even though they do base their lives on logic, they still have that slight bit of emotional response in there. They're not going to be just completely cold and calculating and robots, as you put it.
Yeah.
So it seems like you kind of need emotions in order to have a compass, like a moral compass.
We'll have a conscience.
A conscience, yeah.
Yeah. Like for me, I straddle that line of because I know when I feel something, it's like fucking all systems go, and I know how it makes me feel in the long run, like how much it drags me down when stuff doesn't go right.
Yeah.
And then to just it almost is more beneficial to me to not give a fuck. That's what a lot of people wish they could do. It's just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care what that person thinks. But a lot of times, like people you're like, yeah, I kind of do care. Well, because I go through weeks and weeks and weeks of like depression and being down if I care. But if I don't care, my life just goes on.
Yeah, it's a way of kind of shutting yourself off.
Yeah, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy.
I will say I'll argue a little bit on the like, are emotions necessary? I mean, I'll say like, well, let me ask you this question. I'll throw this in there since this is actually a good way to go. Is if you could like switch them on and off, would you?
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
I think a lot of people would.
Hell yeah. If I had like this physical switch that I could go to the wall and click it on, click it off, fuck yeah, I would. Like think about it. Like say.
But don't we kind of need the good and the bad times? We can't just have the good times.
Well, because
then you just get people who are just desensitized to everything.
Well, that's the reason I'm on medication.
Yeah.
And like seriously, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Like because I feel so hard, I choose to turn it off, and then I become what's clinically called a sociopath. So like I'm like straddling the fence.
I'm thinking of one example is Brave New World. The book Brave New World.
I'm not familiar.
Where pretty much the whole thing is the society. They're all like born in like tubes. They're like kind of like all like tube babies or whatever, or born in like these bottles is the way they put it. But the whole thing is like they're never like sad. They never experience like down emotions for the most part. Because what they do is if they ever start feeling depressed, they take this stuff called Soma. It's like, oh, just take a gram of Soma and you'll feel a lot better. And the society, it's like free love. Like, we just go and have sex. You don't have relationships. You don't have marriages. You don't have parents.
No connection.
And it's very much, if you're ever down, you just take some Soma and you get high and you feel better. Like there's no people like that are depressed.
Which would be nice, man.
Yeah, and they don't have like anger, or I think they get angry, but from what I can remember, but they're just kind of emotionless people in a way. They're just like all they care about is happy things, and then and it's a really good book, man.
Yeah,
I read it like
what's it called again?
Brave New World.
Brave New World.
I probably read it like a couple of years ago or something, but I still kind of go back to it, which means actually, and it is considered a classic. It was written in like the 30s or the 40s.
Okay. Oh, and it's
Aldous Huxley. He wrote The Doors of Perception.
Okay. So what you put into my mind is like anybody that knows me knows that I identify as a Buddhist because of my emotions. And like the teaching of the teachings of the Buddha is like you have to let it go, no attachments.
Yeah.
Like the only way that you can have inner peace is to actually not have emotion. And and honestly, if you really read Buddhist texts, it's having emotion is gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
Like don't get attached to your dog. Don't get attached to your friends. Don't get attached to anybody that comes into your life. The only way that you can truly have inner peace is just don't care.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of fucked up, but I kind of put it very blankly and like straight line, but that's what it is.
I'll say right now, like one thing that just popped in my head is antidepressants. Look at how many people take antidepressants nowadays. Or even just drugs in general.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to feel bad.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's a high percentage of people, if they have the option where like I don't want to feel anything bad, they'll take it. But you need, if you just feel good all the time.
Well, no. Okay.
It's not good.
I got to cut you off.
Yeah.
I take antidepressants daily.
Yeah.
and you don't feel good. It does not make
it just balances you out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a chemical thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's where you don't, like in my case in particular, it's not obsessing about stuff. It's not focusing on anything. Being able to just like move on with your next thought. You get what I'm saying?
No.
You don't feel good. You know, like that's.
Well, unless you're doing some crazier drugs.
Yeah, I'm on some. Yeah, but anyway, but yeah, it's a lot, man. And like, so emotions are something that we've never been able to figure out. You know, a millennia of human psyche, we've never been able to figure it out.
But do you feel you need the good with the bad?
You have to, otherwise you're going to commit suicide.
Oh. Because well, you know, you see those examples of people even when they're like so super happy, like their lives. There was never anything wrong with their lives. You know, they were really happy.
Look at Robin
people.
Williams. Look at Robin Williams.
Oh yeah. No, you see that a lot. You see, I think what Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park.
Lincoln Park. Yeah.
And like I would have never thought he
never thought he would be depressed.
I would never thought that. Yeah.
Well, because
they just seem like such happy people. It's usually the people who who seem the happiest or who are like hurting the most.
In my particular chemical imbalance, I have no delusions of wanting to die.
Yeah.
I love being alive. Fuck all that shit.
Yeah.
For me, it's just it's for me to like really be honest. It's a mixture of OCD and depression. Oh. So that's like there's a chemical cocktail that I have to function. Otherwise, I'm just gonna sit on my couch all fucking day, not go to work, not shave, not shower. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like an emotion plays into all of that.
Well, and also, I mean, say you're having a really bad week.
They call it a manic episode. Yeah.
Well, say you're having a really bad week, but then all of a sudden you give that one good day. It makes you. Well, another thing emotions will do is they'll make you appreciate your life more and things more, and people more.
Yeah.
Because if you just have, you always have good emotions, you're never gonna and like good times, you're never gonna appreciate what you have in front of you, unless you do have those bad times. You need like that good. You need the yin and the yang.
Yep. Well, it's so what you made me think of. Is a good emotion, a good feeling is what's called a dopamine drop. And
you see that now with like Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, you get a like on something. And
yeah,
it's a dopamine drop.
That's become a big thing nowadays. Is people need that. They need to feel like they're loved or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of people, not my case in particular, but there's a lot of people in particular that like they get a dopamine drop, and then their brain's not capable of reproducing those chemicals for like a cool down.
Well, that's why social media has honestly become a drug.
Oh fuck yeah,
big time.
It's like we were talking about.
And I mean, starting even earlier now. I mean, they're all of a sudden I'll hear about some app, and I'm like, what the fuck is this app? And it's like, oh, it's been around for like the last 3 or 4 years, and it's like the most popular app in the world for teenagers. I'm like, I've never heard of this shit.
Yeah,
I think there's one called like Musical.ly.
Yeah.
Well, I had never heard of it up until like maybe 6 months ago on like a BuzzFeed documentary, and apparently it's like. All these kids do. I think all they do is they like lip sync to songs.
Yeah, TikTok does that too.
And they I never heard of TikTok up until just a few like months ago.
Yeah.
Which tells you how out of it I am, but just because I just don't give a shit.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to go, man.
But I think now it's like you see that kids need that. They're even the narcissism I think is coming in even more. Or maybe not even saying it's narcissism, but it's like
it's definitely a little bit of narcissism.
Connection now.
Definitely a little bit of narcissism.
I mean, this is probably us showing our age a little bit.
Yeah, self-gratification is a lot of it.
But I mean, it all depends. But it's just you have that group think about you when you're young. You want to fit in, so you like join these little social media apps. You're like, oh, I need to make something that's really funny, or I need to make something really cool.
It's like Vine. Like I didn't even.
They need the acceptance of other people, and maybe that's just something with the social media it's just a way of you to get acceptance of what you're doing with your life.
It's just get likes.
So I want to go on these little
like
rants.
think about it yourself.
I'm a ranting type of person.
Well, think about it yourself. Like and myself in particular. Anytime that I've put something on Facebook, anytime I get like a like, I'm like, oh sweet.
Yeah,
but
at the same time, if like say a post you put up doesn't do that well, or you don't feel that good.
You're like, wait a minute, why don't people care?
Why don't more people like that? It's like saying getting a happy birthday on Facebook, for instance.
Yeah,
you might have say you've got 50 friends, and then 10 of those like leave you a happy birthday on Facebook, but then you got 40 people who don't. You're like,
they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care about me.
Yeah.
And so that brings you down too. That's another part of social media, but we're not talking about social media this right now. I think we have we done an episode on social media?
Not yet. We should though.
We need to.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out about that. Or maybe the question will be: is social media a drug?
Oh, it's definitely a drug.
Well, yeah. I'll figure out a better question then.
Well, like
I'll write it down.
Just kind of like bring things around the corner. Like, are emotions necessary? I think that's what makes us human.
Oh, definitely.
Emotions make us human. It's not like you can look at a dog and you can tell when they're sad. You can tell when they're angry,
well, you
agitated.
you do see it in other parts of the animal
Yeah.
culture, though, with like dolphins, chimps.
Like
I'm
elephants,
sure monkeys, elephants.
Elephants have funerals, for fuck's sake.
You see plenty of animals out there who actually do experience emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, even I don't even want to say like birds. Like they do like complex mating dances.
Well, there you go.
Fish.
I think emotion is part of having a chemically driven brain.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Instead of electrically driven brain. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's emotion is just part of what it is to be alive. And so it's in my opinion, it's definitely necessary, but it's not always beneficial.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
So,
go ahead.
Or not? Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
But like to have emotion is a good thing, but to have over emotions is a bad thing. So the balance is the hard part.
So I'm just looking at. I found where I found this question was on a website, and I was looking for like philosophical questions for emotions, and it's this one article that is were it not for our emotions, would anyone else know what was significant to us, whether positive or negatively?
There you go. Like you have emotions for like anything that you care about. Like say, in my case in particular, like we saw Spider-Man today and I had emotions because I have that fucker tattooed on my leg. Like without emotion, you don't care about anything.
Yeah. And actually that's something I want to bring up is, if another question here is if we did not have emotions, for what reason would we do anything?
Yeah.
That's actually a good point right there.
The big thing is that if you didn't have emotion at all you would do is be a caveman, eat, sleep, and fuck. That's all you would do.
It'd just be the survival instinct at that point.
That's all you would do. Eat, sleep, and fuck. Like that's all you would do.
You wouldn't care what happens to another person.
No.
You're like, I'll sure enough like eat them as fuck them.
Yeah, exactly. It's procreation, sustenance, and sleep.
Oh,
yeah, that's what it is, man.
So another side of I guess maybe I think this kind of relates to the topic of emotions necessary is, and probably the bad side is you look at war, famine, hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, hatred would be a good one nowadays. Especially nowadays, hatred, racism, and I'm not trying to get political with this, but when it comes to emotions, if you could turn off that emotion of hatred or bigotry, racism, because that is an emotion.
Absolutely.
It's not really
I would call it an emotion.
Yeah,
because
it's more. I guess it might be. I wouldn't even want to say an opinion or belief.
Well, it's like a triggered type of thing that you.
Well, actually, faith is a good way to put it.
There you go.
Faith is an emotion.
Yeah, it
or
is.
Belief.
And you genuinely got to understand that belief actually fuels a lot of emotion.
Oh no, that's a good point.
It really does. It really does. Think about like the Crusades and stuff like that.
Well, I'm thinking of just people being against people who are gay.
Oh, that's rough. That's rough. Like if you have a belief that those people are, going back to faith, that are against religion, you're gonna have these emotions that are
deep-seated emotions.
Yeah, that are fucked up. You know what I mean? Like here on this podcast, we accept everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it just kind of sucks that going back to what we were just talking about, like if you have a religious belief, it's going to give you like an emotion about something, and there's like and then you go back to like the ancient Greeks, stuff like that, to where it was kind of gender fluid.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm thinking of too right now is actually like that when the U.S. was in like World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For instance, like a lot of Americans, they hated Japanese.
Yeah. And that'll give you an emotion.
And even if people who were just his ancestors from Japan, but they were Americans, they got a lot of they still hated them because they were Japanese. Their ancestry was Japanese, but they were Americans. And you actually, I think you see that more and more nowadays in the U.S. Unfortunately,
yeah.
More people are fighting back against it, but it's just like, oh well, you're from another country, like you're an immigrant, like fuck you. It's like, well, fuck you, dude.
Yeah, well, racism.
But that's very and it drives people's emotions. Like these immigrants are taking our jobs. Like
they're making us better. But
you're like, hey, motherfucker! Unless you're a Native American, you're an immigrant.
Well, you
fucking asshole.
Well, even if you go back far enough, Native Americans are immigrants too. If you go back far enough, we all go
back. Like everybody's from
Africa.
From Africa.
Yeah, but so racism could be an emotion. It makes you dumb. Like it gets into your brain. Are you taught racism, or do you think this like?
No, you were
something.
taught it, I think.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in an Irish family. Sadly to say, the Irish are pretty fucking racist.
Oh yeah, but a lot of people hated fucking Irish for fucking probably at least a century or two.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like Irish coming into the U.S.
That's right.
A lot of people who were like already in the U.S., even though they would have immigrated from like wherever else,
my grandpa,
they fucking hated the Irish.
My grandpa, like back in like the early 70s and stuff, like he used to tell my dad that the Irish were the Mexicans of Europe. Because we're all Catholic, we came over and took jobs. And I was saying, wait a minute.
I think the emotion that all this boils down to is definitely like hatred.
Mm-hmm.
And hatred and dislike is the best way to boil this one down. I mean, and that is one emotion if we could.
Well,
I wish we could turn that off, but it is part. Unfortunately, it's just part of the human experience. It's like you're like, oh, I hate that guy. He's a dick.
Well, and hate is so easy to say.
Well, yeah.
Hate is an emotion.
We can't just be like, oh, I strongly dislike that person. Like, no, I hate that person.
Hate's a strong fucking word. Hate's a strong.
I mean, I've said it tons of times, like, oh, I hate that food, or I hate that food. I'm like, and you don't think about it because it's just so common. It's like with love.
Yeah.
Love and hate are very commonly used. The words have started to lose their meaning.
Right. Yeah. It's watered down.
And actually now, to get back to kind of go a little bit full circle with love, it's like nowadays if somebody tells you they love you, it doesn't have as much impact, I think, because we're so we've become more desensitized to that word.
I've more than once in my life, I've said it and didn't genuinely know what it meant to even say it.
But I'm sure it still happened. Say like I'm because I'm thinking of the time now where it's just the way it is. Like saying to your friend like, "Oh, I love you." I'm thinking. I'm just thinking going back to like the 50s or the 60s.
Oh, and it was a much bigger thing when you said it then.
I think it was because we weren't just as desensitized to it. It's like, oh, you love your parents, you love your friends, and you might, like, oh, I love this food,
right.
Like I love eating pizza.
Like
right. I love pizza.
So like right now,
tacos.
Right now, if I had to be genuine about what I love, it's probably my dog.
My dog is my biggest thing. I love my dog more than anything.
Yeah, it's probably my dog.
I can genuinely say that. So when I said earlier, like I don't know if I am capable of love. I think at least when it comes to my dog, I am. I think to me, it's like I have to really like feel it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've said it too many times to where like I'll be completely frank. I was my name's not Frank, but that I've brought this person up more than once. This most recent relationship, I was like starting to bring it into my head. Is like, is it time to say this? Is it time?
Yeah.
Is it time to say this?
No, and you constantly think about that in your head.
Yeah. Is it time to say this? Is it too soon? Does it have any meaning? And with.
I've said it before just because I thought I was supposed to.
Yeah. Well, and in this,
or because maybe they felt that way, but I was like, oh, man, well, I think I love her.
Well, and this person in particular didn't like. Beating a dead horse, but this person in particular didn't give me anything. So why would I say that? And and it was like starting to go through my brain. It was like, oh, we've been together this long. It's probably time for me to say this.
Yeah. No, I think it happens to a lot of people. It's like, I don't necessarily feel that way, but I think it's time. It's the right time for me to say that.
Yeah.
But I think even like I think that's one thing I've really realized now more than ever. Is like I'd be with someone and after like I felt like I was like, oh, after like a couple weeks or a few weeks I'd have to say that.
Right.
And now I'm just like, if I'm going to say that to someone, I want to be real. I want it to be real, and I want to be absolutely sure.
Yeah, and like we were kind of like,
and make sure it's not lust, because I think about that too. It's like, and in the heat of the moment, I'll be like, oh, maybe I'm in love with them. And I'm like, you know what? Hold that with put a pin in that, and I'm just like I'm kind of drunk right now. Like, let me revisit this tomorrow.
Like you put something in my head that I probably shouldn't like go into, but I can't even tell you how many times like I've been with a girl intimately. And then in the act of like just having, oh, I love you.
Yeah.
And it just comes out, like, and then you're like, fuck, okay, that's on the table now. And then, you get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like that, like, I don't want to like get too into it, but like it's come out of my mouth before in a moment of quote unquote passion. And it wasn't a good thing to say, because it wasn't real.
Yeah.
It was just something that came out of my mouth because it was something that I like am programmed to say in a scenario like
I think
that.
we're all kind of programmed to say that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Have we gone through everything on this one?
Well, I'm trying to think of other emotions. Like we went through hate, we went through love, we went through
passion, lust,
empathy,
sadness, hatred.
We actually didn't do sadness.
We didn't. I thought we kind of did.
Oh, yeah.
Because we did like happy and sad.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. We kind of covered the rainbow of emotions there.
Yeah, we definitely did.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of
but we're all here's my kind of thing towards the end. Like we're all chemically different. Emotion defines who you are. Like your life experiences define who you are, and your emotions that respond to those exact situations. That really defines your life experience and whether you're happy or not.
Let me throw this out there as probably more of a final question. It's like, but why? Your opinion, and I actually probably feel like more. I probably got a scientific opinion or fact. But why do we have emotions in the first place?
I think it's an evolutionary thing.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty sure it is too.
It's built into our brain. It's like without emotions, we wouldn't care for our offspring.
I think that's really what it came down to. Is we needed that. We needed the ability to care for our offspring, because if we didn't,
we wouldn't care.
We would just like go on. I actually heard something crazy. It was about dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, like if a female dolphin has offspring, and a male like had never been with that,
they'll kill it.
They'll kill it. Yeah. So dolphin females become sluts.
That's right.
And because that way, when they have that child,
they all
wonder if it's they all like, it might be mine, so they don't attack the dolphin.
That's where the pod comes from.
Yeah.
That's exactly where the pod comes from.
Yeah.
And then one of the things I was looking at, like, and I'm gonna drop it.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've like looking at my Bigfoot research is like, okay, so you talk about bears a lot.
Yeah.
Male bears will.
I was just thinking of the bears part.
Will eat their own offspring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they will eat their own offspring simply because they're competition. They're competition for food, whatever. So like without emotion, I don't think humans could exist, because like okay, do you stupid question. Do you know anybody that has a kid?
Yeah, I probably do. Well, my brother's about to have a kid in September.
Well, all you have to do.
Oh yeah, I've known. Yeah.
Well, all you have to do is look at the way.
I don't think I would have direct like. I mean, there probably people who work around have kids, but I don't have any like direct like. Okay, I know that guy and he's a friend of mine, and I see their kid every once in a while. I don't really have that.
Well, all you got to do is look at the way that a human being interacts with their own child.
Yeah.
It's like like I've heard this so many.
By the way, we act with our dogs.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But like in particular, I've heard like I never knew I could love something so much.
Yeah.
And you've only known this living creature for a month, 2 months, 3 months, but your biology, your chemistry is like, I have to love this thing.
Well, no, we're kind of chemically programmed with that.
Well,
and babies are like kind of chemically programmed to like cry.
And they trigger.
Trigger,
yeah. You're 100%. And I realize I'm being very blunt and very short with what I'm saying. And but we are wired to have emotion for our own offspring. Otherwise, we would have died off a long time ago.
Yeah. No, I remember I was talking to somebody. I was saying something about my brother's girl having a kid, and they're not due till September. Just on the current day recording. But what was I thinking? But I said something like, "Oh yeah, I'm like kind of worried. Like, is she's not. Hopefully, she doesn't have like a miscarriage. Hopefully, the baby's healthy. All that stuff." And somebody said to me, "It's like." That's what, it's like, well, like, that's pretty much what parenthood is. Like, even before the kid's born, you're like, I'm already worried about them. I'm like, whoa, fuck. Like,
yeah. Well,
I never thought about that before. I'm like, wow, that's what it's like?
Well, it's wired into your brain.
Yeah.
It's wired into your brain.
Because it's like, even though this kid isn't born yet, I already, like, kind of care.
Yeah.
I don't say kind of. I already, like, care.
We are neither one of us parents, guys.
Yeah.
Like, like.
I'm happy I'm not a parent, though.
Yeah, I don't.
We're dog parents.
Yeah.
We're dog fathers.
That's the only type of father I ever hope to be.
Yeah, me too. Which is probably a good thing.
My big thing is I'm too selfish with my own time.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
I'm too selfish with my own time. Like Leia, like she needs to go out and pee, and I feed her and take her for walks.
Yeah,
but
I could be gone from the house for like 10 hours, and I know my dog's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a kid. I'm like, I can't leave a kid home alone. In the house for 10
gotta get
hours.
babysitters and shit.
Or do I? I mean, I could just be like,
or do I?
I mean, like 3 years old, I'll just be like, all right, here's how you get up. Here's how you make your own lunch.
There you go. You're a latch.
They come back, they got to burn. I'm like, hey, what'd you learn?
Don't touch the stove.
Don't touch the stove. Like, you know how to turn the TV on, right? Yeah. All right. We'll fucking pick something
later.
And stay away from the porn. What's porn? You don't need to know that.
Tell you that in about 6 years.
Just follow the dog example. Just lay on the bed all day. I'm bored, Dad. It's like, so what?
Find something to
find something to do.
Find something.
There's
to do.
a book. Read it. I don't know what this word means.
Like,
get a fucking get your phone out. Look it up in the dictionary. I would, but I would not give a kid. Like, if I had a kid, I would not give them a phone until they were at least like for a long time. Because you see that nowadays, like fucking kids are like 8 years old. I'm sure even
you can
earlier
access
than that.
You can access anything on a smartphone.
Fucking
man.
kids don't need phones, man. That young.
No.
I'm sure now, like, kids get ridiculed when they're like 8 years old and they don't have a fucking phone.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're like, you don't have a phone? Like, yeah, my parents don't give me a phone. It's like, you're a loser.
I didn't have my first cell phone until I was like 21.
Yeah, I was like 18.
Yeah.
17 or 18.
And it was that Nokia fucking...
Oh, yeah, I had the Nokia. Also, I didn't know what the text message symbol was up until like a year after I'd had the phone. I was like, wait, what the hell? Like, what? I was wondering what that little mailbox or that little letter thing was on there. I didn't know what the hell that was.
What am I supposed to do with this?
And I started using it all the time. And it was like the one where you had to click like 3 times to get each letter.
Yeah,
oh, my God.
And you could play Snake.
Yeah. Snake was a good one.
There was like no backlight to the phone.
No. Wait, we're just waxing nostalgia now.
Yeah.
Which we're not the nice nostalgics. Shout out to them, by the way.
Shout out Ronnie.
God, I love your show, man.
Yeah. So where do you want?
And Sarah.
Yeah. Sarah Bears.
Yeah, Sarah Bears.
So where do we want to go from here?
I think we got everything.
We
try to get everything. I think we got everything. At least I'm stuff pops up in our head like fucking half an hour later. Like, God damn it.
We even took a sweat break.
Yeah. That's our sauna right now.
Yeah, right.
Luckily minus the moisture.
All right. I had to like wipe my head off with a towel.
Yeah.
That's how we bring you guys quality audio. No air conditioners.
Because we care.
we sweat for our craft.
We care. All right, you got anything else?
No, man. I think we really covered the rainbow.
All right, so this has been question 24. Are emotions necessary? And I say yes.
Yeah, I think they are.
And as always, I would like to encourage people, like, hey, fucking talk to your friends, significant other, whatever. Fucking talk to each other and get your own opinions, because if anything, you'll have a fun conversation.
Yeah. Any one of these questions is a good conversation.
Oh, yeah. And if you ever want to submit a question to us, hit us up on nerdybonescast@gmail.com or on Instagram or Facebook.
All right.
Usually pretty quick to get back on this.
Yeah, we're actually pretty quick on the draw with that.
And, and I hope you enjoyed. And in the end, I just want to say, keep thinking.